Good afternoon and welcome to the Rotary Club of Edina. I'm Sam Thompson. I'm proud to be your 66th president. We're coming to you live from the Edina Country Club and also on Zoom. We have today 55 people that have pre-registered live and 28 that have pre-registered on Zoom. And it's the largest number we've had since we've been going since about a year and a half ago, about a year and a quarter ago. So that's great. I want to give a special welcome to our guests today. We're very excited that you've joined us. And for those that are new to Rotary, we are a global network of 1.2 million leaders and problem solvers that unite to take action to create lasting change across the world. We are people of action, and as people of action, we have 7 areas of focus, and they are promoting peace, fighting disease, providing clean water, saving mothers and children, supporting education, growing local economies, and protecting the environment. And to give you a better idea of what Rotary is, I'd like to show you a very short video.
We've been here before, fighting the problems that fight back. But we can shift the status quo, because we see opportunities where others see obstacles. We're change makers and problem solvers, uniting over 1 million minds to address complex issues facing communities around the world, including yours. With passion and purpose, we've led the efforts to put an end to polio. Now eradication isn't just possible, it's plausible. Every day we're investing in a new generation of leaders so we can continue to provide access to clean water, tackle global health concerns, support education, and build the foundations of peace across borders. We're working together as partners and professionals while making friendships that last a lifetime. We're Rotary, and there's no limit to what we can do.
Okay, our club meets every Thursday right here at the Edina Country Club. And we are the largest club in our district. There are about 66 clubs in our district, and we have 166 members. And we're very active, both locally and internationally, volunteering in the 7 areas of focus. And last May, we traveled to Guatemala with 27 Rotarians to deliver life-saving water purification units to remote mountainous villages. And we have another trip planned in May of this year to return, to continue our water project there. This year, we have supported 24 local and international organizations providing over $105,000 worth of grants to fight poverty, hunger, disease, and to support education and health care. Quite simply, Rotary's mission is to make our communities a better place to live. This past year, our club created a race and equity committee established to making our club more inclusive. After the riots in South Minneapolis last June that destroyed many businesses, our club joined with 6 other clubs within our district and the Lake Street Council to help a business get back on their feet with mentorship from our members. We have extremely active youth program. We have our Interact Club, which is our high school version of Rotary, and we have our Rotaract Club, which is our young professionals that would be 18 to 30 years old. We also offer an annual business camp for high school students that's called Camp Enterprise, and that's always in the fall. And new this year is our Edina Rotary Global Scholar Program that combines academic study with Rotary service and leadership activities into specialized degree that elevates our high school students. And currently we have 60 students that have signed up for it, are registered, And on May 1st, we will be winning an award at the district conference for this program. Rotary's slogan is service above self, and that is what we do. We put the needs of others above our own. Thank you for visiting our club today. We hope you return and consider joining our team of people in action. And now for our member update. Ann Platt and Jim Platt, their business is back, which is great news. They offer a family lodging alternative for pets. It's called Pets Are In. And Ann is telling me that many of their clients now are on spring break. They're booked, which is great. They're getting many reservations too for the summer season, so that's good to see. And this is Sandy, Ann said, which is a Morkie, one of her clients. And spring is here. Skip Thomas had his 1-year-old grandson, Dean Thomas. He took out on a walk at Roseland Park, and they played the instruments that actually were provided by our club in 2018. That was part of our signature project. So Skip sent me a short little video. All right, so thanks, Skip. I'm glad the instruments are being used. That was actually San Asato's year with our signature project, so that's great. And Rotary in the News, a reminder that our district conference is May 1st. Matter of fact, our district governor is in the back. I see him back there, Tom Gump. Tom is waving back there. Nice to have you here. So it's May 1st. The theme is Rooted in Service, Growing in New Ways. It's a Protecting the Environment theme. And the first 20 members from our club that sign up get to go free. It's $35 normally for the food and $25 for Zoom. It's a short program, goes 10 to 2, and it's in Brooklyn Park. And Tom says it's COVID friendly. And once again, we'll be getting an award too with our Global Scholar program. Okay, birthdays. We have 4 birthdays this next week, and Jennifer Benarod's actually today on April Fool's. So happy birthday to the 4 of you. And many anniversaries. Wow, it's a big time to join Rotary. So you can see all the anniversaries there. Congratulations to all of you. Okay, and assisting off podium, our greeter is Fred Sylvester, Zoom greeter Mark Stegeberg, front desk Royce Pavelka, photographer Rick Carlson, and AV support is Ryan Wilson working with Chris from C-Vision. Okay, at this time, I'd like to call up Toshie for Invocation Pledge and the 4-way test.
Hi there. Today, I'd like to thank you all the essential workers, medical personnel, and all related persons who helped us to combat this COVID-19 virus. The year 2020 was semi-disaster due to divided opinions how to tackle this pandemic. We learned to mask up, 6 feet distancing, and washing hands constantly. Viruses have no boundaries. The vast country was affected enormously from metro to rural area. We lost more than 550 million people. It's so sad. But year 2021, we see the light at the end of the tunnel, and more than 35% of us got vaccination. I did too. Finally, we are so grateful to live in this country that know how to figure out to control this pandemic. Looking forward to going back to the life once we knew. Amen. Okay, now I think the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And one thing, the 4-way test, one thing we think, say, and do.
Is truth, is fair to all concerned, will build goodwill and better friendships, will will be beneficial to all concerned.
Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Bridget Hallstrom and I'm our membership director here at the Edina Rotary Club. I'm just so thrilled to see so many prospective members here today and with us on Zoom. I'm going to list off the names and who brought the guests. So thank you for bringing some potential new members to us. The first is Wooge brought, we have a little fun here. We have Kim Lena. Welcome, Kim. If you could stand up too, that'd be great.
This is Lena Kim. She's in Education Administration.
Thank you. And then next we have David Kleins. He actually brought 3 guests. David brought Jen Miller. We've got Louis Denard. We have Steve Bauer. Thank you for coming. Eli Grudendag brought Darren Beckering. Thank you. And then we also have Shelley Loberg brought Natalie Schultz. And then, let's see here, online we have Tom Neville, who is a guest of Joe Hayes. And then we have 3 guests joining us actually from our Cedar Rapids Rotary Club. One of them, Jim Cook, is actually my colleague, and his 2 Rotarian friends, Chris Crosby and Kyle Kuntz. So thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you enjoy the presentation.
Hi everybody, it's great to see you again. I'm here to invite all of you to our Wednesday, April 7th, to our next Happy Hour Vocational Development. We meet, as probably most of you know, but we meet every first Wednesday of the month, except for January and July. We do from 6 to 7. We are yet doing Zoom. We are hoping to do live as soon as we can find another spot. So most of you know that we used to meet at the Mez. The Mez isn't open yet. I did check with them. So we're looking for another spot that's 1, free, and that 2, has alcohol and maybe food. So, and that probably holds about 20 people.
That's your house.
And yours is right next door. So if anybody knows of a spot, please either let me or Wade know. And Happy Hour Vocational Development was founded as an opportunity for Rotarians to get to know each other's careers and to build our networks. And in addition to that, it also promotes Rotary's ideal of service within our professions. So please join us. This month's speaker is going to be Afira Hassan. She is a morning club member, and Afira, founded Insight Vision Care to provide convenient and comprehensive eye care for people, for everyone. So please join us this coming Wednesday. And welcome Afira to our meeting. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. Nice to see you. I wanted to just point out we have one more guest that sat at my table. I want to make sure you get recognized. So Raj, would you mind introducing?
Yeah, thanks, Rob.
Yeah.
She's in the investment business, living in Edina. She's been here before for a free meal. This time she's coming as a prospective guest.
Welcome. All right, so I'm up here to talk a little bit about our leadership series. Leadership is actually part of the membership here, kind of effort that we have here at the Edina Rotary Club. And this particular month, coming up here in April, we have Paul Mooty going to be our speaker on the 20th, and he's going to be talking about values-based leadership. And so you won't want to miss that. One thing I want to mention that this is a part of membership, And so we do want to invite guests. So we'd like to see your faces there. It's all done on Zoom. Starts at 6 o'clock, always the third Tuesday of the month. And we'd like you to invite your colleagues, invite your employees, invite people. These are really good sessions. They're well produced. Not because I'm producing them, but because we have good speakers. And we'd really like to have that grow. We had just a great time last month, and we'll have another great time here in April. So please join us. Thank you.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. It's my pleasure this afternoon to recognize another group of Paul Harris Fellow awardees. This represents $1,000 cumulative increments of gifting to the Rotary Foundation. And the Rotary Foundation is a very large pool of money that helps support all of those international projects that we engage in that Sam shared with you at the beginning of our meeting. So I'd like to invite up to join me, and we're going to do this quickly, is Bridget and Ross Peterson and Royce. And is Sutton here today? I don't know, I thought she might come. Anyway, so Bridget, thank you. And when you get your first Paul Harris Fellow, you actually get this really nice certificate. So Bridget, that's for you. And I also have a pin for you as well. So you get a certificate and a pin. And Royce, you get a pin with more gems on it. And you do as well, Ross.
Thank you.
So, thank you. Bridget, do you want to stand up here?
You wanted me to do
Yeah. Come on up. We'll do a quick picture.
You got a really nice smile right now.
Hey, there we go. One more for good luck. Already on. Perfect, thank you.
All right. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, it's spring. I'm wearing it. Hey, everybody. Paul Peterson here. I'm on the Local Grants Committee, and Bill Malota and I vetted this next group, but we're going to be presenting a check to them. We're supporting them. Jennifer Gaines is going to be coming up in 1 second. I'll do a brief introduction. The organization, Affective Sober Living, provides sober living in 2 homes located in, I believe, North Minneapolis for women recovering from addiction. Without further ado, please welcome Jennifer Gaines. Tell us a little bit about what she's going to do with the grant.
Well, hi, my name is Jennifer Gaines, and I'm the founder of JCS Affective Sober Living. I'm really honored to be here. This is my first time applying for a grant and then getting it. And I just really want to thank Scott Blake, who's been helping me switch from a business to nonprofit, and Shelley, I forget your last name, Shelley, and Ann Platt, who helped me with the grant writing process, and most of all, Renee, who's just had my back through this whole thing. And I'm just really touched. We're going to be using this grant for security cameras on the outside of the sober houses. You know, I work with women in recovery, but my focus is women who have been trafficked. And, you know, we just want to keep the women safe, keep drug dealers, traffickers out. And, yeah, I'm just so grateful. Thank you so much.
I'm smiling through my mask.
Do I get one of these?
Just so you can see it. Yeah, we'll get one.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, good job, Paul. Okay, just a quick announcement. Our fireside chats are still going on. They go on until April 26th. So go to our website and you can sign up. They're all on Zoom this year. And now we're ready for our program. And I'm going to be introducing Scott MacDonald, who will be introducing the program. Scott joined Rotary in 1996. He was president in 2012, 2013, and is a major donor. He is a charter member of the Heckler Table, which I guess was before my time, and said his table totally loosened up the club, hence all of the banter back and forth from the audience to the podium. So it's good we have you at the speaker's table today, Scott. With that, bring up Scott MacDonald.
Yeah, baby. I hope some of you got to read the article in the Star Trib that was written about Josh last September, and that's how I reached out to him. It's an interesting story because people don't talk about suicide and mental health. I reread the article this week, and I was thinking of something about the definition of hero, and I looked it up. A hero is a person who is admired or idolized for courage, outstanding achievements, or noble qualities. I can add that whenever a person is referred to as a hero, they humbly reply with, "Just doing my job." I think after hearing Josh speak, you can draw your own conclusion. Sergeant First Class Josh Guyse joined the Army in 1989. He served in every position on an infantry line company from rifleman to company first sergeant. He has served in the regular Army, the California Army National Guard, and joined the Minnesota Army National Guard in 2008. He's been deployed multiple times in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom, Operation Enduring Freedom, and Operation New Dawn. Currently, he is the course manager of Maneuver Senior Leadership Course and the Senior Infantry Instructor at the 175th Regional Training Institute at Camp Ripley, Minnesota. That's a mouthful. His list of awards include the Bronze Star, Combat Infantryman's Badge, Operation Iraqi Freedom Medal with 3 campaign stars, Operation Enduring Freedom Afghanistan Medal with campaign star, Global War on Terror Expeditionary Medal, and Army Commendation Medal with 3 oak leaf clusters. On the civilian side, Josh is a registered nurse at St. Joseph's Medical Center in Brainerd. He works as a nurse preceptor and charge nurse on the post-surgical recovery unit, and he is currently pursuing his Master's of Science in Nursing with a focus in leadership. Please welcome Josh Guyse.
So it's a little funny. I've done this once or twice before, and you hear somebody introduce you that way. My kids will tell you, and I promise you, I sound much better on paper than I am in real life. So I appreciate the introduction. He introduced me, and you should be saying, hey, that's great, but why are you specifically standing here in front of me? Well, 3 reasons. 1, as you pointed out, I am a veteran. 2, I am a registered nurse with specific training in psychosocial nursing. And 3, and probably most importantly, why am I standing in front of you today, is back in 2009, I came within a couple hours of taking my own life. So to sort of understand how I got to that day and how I got to that point where I was ready to take my own life, you need to understand where I came from. So my full name is Joshua Rain Guyse. I was born and raised in San Francisco, California, to 3 outstanding hippie parents. My parents taught me a lot growing up in California. 1, it's cool to live off the grid prior to them making TV shows about it. We used to live in a log cabin at Forks of the Salmon River, no running water, no electricity, and no TV cameras. They taught me some lessons in life. One of those was empathy, right? You can't judge somebody unless you've walked a mile in their shoes. Or as my mom would say, you can't judge somebody unless you've walked a mile in their moccasins. And 2, my dad taught me, very importantly, that John Wayne was the greatest actor on earth. I can remember when we moved away from that cabin and we moved back into San Francisco proper and we were living in the city, every Sunday morning on Channel 2, there was John Wayne movies. And we would watch those John Wayne movies. So growing up in San Francisco, growing up with those liberal parents, I did like every great hippie kid would do. I turned 18 and I joined the U.S. Army. Now, I know some of you think that's counterintuitive. That doesn't make a whole lot of sense. But to me, it makes perfect sense because I believe I'm the ultimate hippie. I believe so much in your right to be who you want to be and do the things that you want to do, that I'm willing to go to foreign lands and I'm willing to fight and die for that right. America's the greatest country on earth, as my mom would say, because you can do and be anything that you want to be. So I joined the Army. And the Army is very, very good at training you. As an infantryman, my job is to locate, fix, close with, and destroy the enemy in close combat by the use of fire and maneuver. The Army trained me very well to do that job. Then all of a sudden one day, President Clinton gets on TV and says there's no more dragons left to slay. We're going to have peace. We don't need as big a military as we used to need, so I'm going to cut the size of the military. I left the military, went and worked in corporate America in California. And then one morning, in September of 2001, I woke up and 19 assholes decided to do some stuff and fly some stuff into some buildings or into the ground. All of a sudden, there was dragons left to slay. All of a sudden, pushing paperwork in corporate America didn't have any value to me anymore. I had friends that were still in the military who were deploying and going forward. I could no longer sit in an office in safety in San Francisco and not go forward with them. So I went back into the military. Went through some more training, and all of a sudden one day, one morning, found myself in Iraq. Now again, the Army's very good at training you, at developing you and getting you there. But when you're training, when people get shot, when people die, they always get back up because it's a training environment. When you order somebody to do something on the battlefield, and you order somebody to take a life on the battlefield, it's very different than when you're training and somebody's shooting blanks, because the Op 4 is always alive at the end of the day. So this hippie kid from San Francisco who believed in God, country, apple pie, mom, found himself in that environment. And the things that you used to do, the coping mechanisms that you used to have that kept you normal and kept you stable here, don't work there. So those begin to erode. Empathy was so important to me growing up that you couldn't judge somebody. All of a sudden you find yourself in a place like Iraq and you don't care about empathy anymore. And things continue to erode. I got to the point in Iraq at one point, I believe there was 3 people in Iraq: insurgents, women who breed insurgents, and children who are going to grow up and be insurgents. That doesn't relate very well to that hippie kid from San Francisco who grew up with empathy. And your humanity continues to erode. You start to see things in combat. You start to see things doing dismounted patrols in Basra. And if you don't know southern Iraq, there was 2 factions fighting for southern Iraq: Jaysh al-Mahdi, otherwise known as JAM, and the Badr Brigades. 2 Shia groups fighting for controls of the street in Basra. If you were lucky, right, Jaysh al-Mahdi would catch you, because they would catch you and kill you and dump your body on the street. The Badr Brigades would take a power tool to you and then dump your body on the streets. And you start to see that, and your humanity continues to erode. You start to order people to do things that they don't want to do, and you start to see the light fade from people's eyes, and that humanity continues to erode. If you've never been in a gunfight in your entire life, that's an outstanding thing. But I'll submit to you that if you're ever in a gunfight in your life, that'll be the single most significant emotional event of your life. Now imagine that being the 20th, 30th, 40th time you've done that. And that humanity continues to erode. The Army was very good at sending me forward, but you have to come back. So you come back from Iraq or Afghanistan or an environment like that, and you have to start making these 2 people mesh. What you were before, who you are now. And you want to be that same person as you were before, but people start telling you, man, you're just not the same. Then people start telling you, like, hey, you just need to talk about it. So you make that mistake one time and you share your story with somebody who wasn't there, and then they look at you like you're a monster. And your humanity continues to erode. It just confirms in your head that I am different. I can't be the same person. I came home from Iraq once, and I went with my wife, and we went to a Subway. And I couldn't fathom having that many options to choose from to put on a sandwich. I couldn't make a decision. So again, these two things are trying to jive. Some people can come back and it meshes fine. A lot of it has to do with how you're wired. What were your coping mechanisms before? What were your values before? But I was struggling. I tried talking about it. Everybody kept telling me I was different. Things that I used to enjoy were no longer there. My relationship with my wife is failing, and that spiral just goes. I no longer fear death. Death holds no mystery to me. I made peace long ago. I thought for a long time when I was in Iraq, it wasn't just a matter of if I'm going to die, it was just a matter of when. I figured I had about a year or so more than some of my buddies. I was ready to die. But I wasn't going to die in a painful manner, and I was going to be absolutely 100% sure I died. So my plan was going to go someplace. I was going to buy some gas. You can go to a welding shop, get a particular type of gas. I was going to go to a hotel, barricade myself in a bathroom, put a note on the door so the cleaning lady didn't have to walk in and see it. Turn on the gas, fill the room with gas. I go to sleep and never wake up. Not painful, guaranteed 100%. Came to that conclusion at about midnight. Was ready to do it, and my phone rang. And it was a buddy of mine, an Army buddy of mine. He was just like, "Hey man, let's get together tonight and have some pie." All right, that's cool. I got a few hours. We go get some pie. So we're in Rochester, Minnesota. We drive to Perkins, and we have pie. And then he says, "Hey, why don't you come back to my house? We'll go hang out at my house the rest of the night." Okay. So I told you my relationship with my wife was failing. I was staying with my aunt and uncle at that time. And I didn't go home that night, and I didn't let them know I wasn't coming home. They had seen the spiral coming. They had seen the spiral as it was going on. They knew when I didn't come home that night that was very out of character for me, and that's when they decided to act. So they called me up that morning, and they're like, "Hey, we've been talking about moving in from out in the country, moving into town. We'd like you to come look at this house we're thinking about." Again, I can't check into the hotel till 11. The gas place doesn't open till 9. All right, I got some time. So they're like, "Hey, meet us for breakfast." Meet them for breakfast, and they pick this place called the Canadian Honker in Rochester, which is right by the freeway. It's pretty smart on them. We show up, have a light breakfast, and they're like, "Hey, jump in our car, let's drive, and let's go take a look." So they throw me in the car. Next thing I know, the doors are locked. And we're doing 65 miles an hour down the highway, coming here to Minneapolis to go to the VA. Now, I wasn't well, but I certainly wasn't throwing myself out of a vehicle at 65 miles an hour on the freeway unwell. So we got up here to the VA. The intake nurse asks me a series of questions and says, asks me a series of questions and says, "Are you willing to spend a night here at the VA? Just for observation." Fair enough, I'll spend one night here at the VA. I've been asked before what made me make that decision. I don't have an answer to that. The infantry god just smiled on me that night, I think, or that morning. So I'm sitting there waiting for the nurse to come pick me up, and the intake nurse tells me that the nurse is going to come from the floor. It's called 1K, and she's going to come pick me up and take me to the floor. Fair enough. So the nurse comes up, picks me up, and we're walking to 1K, and we're just about to turn the corner to 1K, and she looks up at me and she says, "They did tell you that this was a locked facility, right?" And I said, no, they didn't. And I think that she needed to do that at that point because she was probably 5'2" and maybe 100 pounds soaking wet, and I think she realized that if I wasn't going to go through that door, I wasn't going to go through that door with just her. So they took me in, and I, of course, am immediately thinking of Nurse Ratched and One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. That was what my experience was going to be. I was convinced. But I walked in. They took away everything that I owned. They gave me some scrubs, some of those sweet gripper socks, put me in a room, and came and checked on me every 15 minutes. Now, I know at this point, I look around, I can see some people, and they're like, "Hey, man, this dude was in a locked psych facility." But let me tell you this. I have discharge papers from a locked psych facility that say I'm sane. So if you don't have discharge papers from a locked psych facility to say that you're sane, I question your sanity. But the key takeaway for me after 19 weeks at the VA was this. Somebody said this to me, and that's when the change began for me. It's okay to not be the same person that you were before you left. This person went on to say, some of the things that you experienced, I would submit to you, you'd almost have to be a sociopath to not be different. And that's when the change began for me. That's when the road to recovery began for me. That's when I was finally able to look at things and go, it's okay to not be the same. It's okay. I understand the fact that certain noises, certain smells, certain experiences are going to trigger me, but that's okay. I may lose sleep, but that's okay. I'll catch back up to sleep sooner or later, right? But there's certain things that I don't take for granted anymore. I don't take the ability to go to Walmart at 3 in the morning to buy a Snickers bar for granted ever again, right? I don't take the ability to tell my loved ones that I love them for granted anymore. I don't take the ability to take a hot shower for granted anymore. So there's positives that came along with that change, and it was okay. So why I'm standing in front of you today. I left the VA and I went back to my infantry life. And in the infantry world, everything is alpha driven. Everything is masculine driven. And this is not, I'm not the only person that's experienced something like this, but most people are unwilling to talk about it. The Army created this resiliency program, and I was watching as we were going through this resiliency program, and it was being delivered in a way that the average infantryman couldn't understand it. I realized, much like going to Iraq, this was something that I believed in, and either I was going to be part of the problem or part of the solution, so I was going to be part of the solution. So in front of an infantry company, I stood up one day during resiliency training when everybody was kind of laughing and not taking it serious, and I told my story. Now, I told it very different than I told it here because I used the F word like a comma, because if you're not, people don't think it's important. But I told my story, and I challenged anybody in that unit. I'm an old school NCO. People generally have the fear of me at the line unit, right? None of you know me, but I'm 6'3", 200 odd pounds. And I told them, if you think I'm weak because I went and got help, you let me know, we'll step out back and we'll settle it old school style. But at that point, I realized that either I was part of the problem or part of the solution. So what I'm going to ask you and everybody in this room are 3 things. 1, fight the stigma. You have to fight the stigma every opportunity you have. I don't lose brother and sister veterans. You don't lose loved ones because they're afraid to ask for help for a broken leg. But somebody says mental illness or mental health issue and people freak out. I promise you, nobody wakes up one morning hoping to be battling a mental health issue than they do hoping to wake up with a broken leg. 2, demand that medical centers and insurance, the VA, everybody take mental health serious. It's not a money producer. It doesn't generate revenue. So when they cut programs, those are some of the first programs that get cut. Demand that they don't do that. And lastly, if you are struggling with anything related to a mental health issue, that doesn't define you. That is not who you are. Any more than somebody having a broken leg is who they are. You didn't ask to wake up with it. You didn't ask to have it. So it doesn't define you. After I left the VA, that's when I became a registered nurse. I graduated from my nursing program as the valedictorian. I've been promoted multiple times in the military since then. That mental illness isn't who I am. It's something that I experienced. So don't define yourself by that mental illness. Don't allow anybody that you know to define themselves by that mental illness. And don't you define somebody with that mental illness. And then demand that the medical facilities and insurance companies continue to support mental health. So I think I had 20 minutes to talk. I'm not quite sure.
You got about 10 minutes.
I got about 10 minutes?
That's what Q&A.
Okay. So I'm going to end it there and go and kind of open the floor up to any questions that you might have for me. Yes, ma'am.
You say demand, how do we do that? Because I'm totally on board with you, but help me figure out how to do that.
Did you say that again, ma'am?
When you say demand that insurance companies and the health organizations support mental health, how do we do that? I'm totally on board, but I don't know how I would demand that. How can I make a difference?
So the question is, how do we go about demanding that, medical facilities and insurance companies continue with their mental health coverage or continue to provide mental health coverages with providers and so on and so forth? You do that through your vote. You do that through your elected officials. You contact your elected officials and make sure they understand that this is important to you. Make sure that they understand that this is important to the community as a whole. Everybody, I guarantee you in this room, knows somebody or has somebody in their family who's dealing with mental health issue. The numbers are there. We used to whisper about cancer because nobody wanted to talk about it. It doesn't make the problem go away. So the best way to do it is reach your elected officials. Make sure that they understand it's important. Make sure that they understand this is what the community wants, this is what the community deserves. Yes, sir.
So I have a family member, a younger gentleman who was in the military, come back, and some suspicion that he might be dealing with some of these things. How do I help that young man? Or what are some things that I could maybe do to help him get connected with some services?
So the question was, if I have somebody, the question was related specifically to a veteran, having a veteran that may have some of these issues, and what are some of the services out there. First, I would recommend, and I don't have the phone number off the top with me, you can contact the VA directly, and the VA has a coaching line. You can call up the VA and say, hey, I got this situation going on. They'll ask you a series of questions about that person to get the detailed information that they need, and then they'll give you techniques and questions to ask them and things to say to them to help get them on that path. That would be the first step that I would recommend. 2, maybe you have to be very blunt, like, hey, I'm seeing this in you. That may or may not work. People generally get concerned, like, I don't want them mad at me. I don't want them angry with me. But if my aunt and uncle had been concerned about me being mad at them, they wouldn't have put me in their car, they wouldn't have taken me to the VA, and I wouldn't be standing here right now. So they have to be alive to be mad at you. It's uncomfortable. People generally don't like the conflict, but sometimes you have to have that. You have to have that engagement. But if you're not sure 100% what to say, or if you're not sure what signs and symptoms they're exhibiting, my recommendation would be contact the VA directly, that helpline. They'll talk to anybody. They'll ask you a series of questions, and they'll give you all sorts of techniques in order to try to get that person. The VA has community outreach programs where you can just drop in, and it's all vets. It's run by vets, and nobody understands a vet better than another vet. Yes, sir.
Are there local organizations that we could support that would be nonprofits that are dealing directly with your issue, and could you tell us a few of the good ones?
So there's the National Institutes of Mental Health is probably the biggest single organization, and they have many smaller organizations that come off of them. There's organizations that work specifically for PTSD. There's ones that work specifically for suicide intervention. There's those that work for bipolar, the whole gambit. There's many. I would recommend contacting the National Institutes of Mental Health and going from there, because they've vetted the organizations. They've gone through the process of determining, who's providing good care, who's not providing good care, what it is that they're providing, and they'd be able to guide you better than I could guide you unless you wanted some specific stuff about a specific program. Yes, ma'am.
If you ask someone if they're considering suicide, will most people be honest?
So the question is, if you ask somebody if they're willing to commit suicide, will they be honest? Generally speaking, the answer is going to be no. Okay? They might not be honest with you. But that's why you have to ask more than just, are you thinking about suicide? Are you thinking about hurting yourself? Do you have a plan to hurt yourself? You gotta ask more questions beyond that. And then you gotta look for those additional signs. Do they go from that classic depressed look to all of a sudden having energy and happy, right? That's usually an indication that they've decided that they have an exit strategy and they're gonna wind up killing themselves, and they feel that sense of relief, right? Nobody wants to be dead. Nobody kills themselves because they want to be dead. They just don't want to be in pain anymore. They don't want to feel that numbness anymore. So you have to ask more than just that specific question. Do you have a plan? Do you have a plan to hurt yourself? What would that plan look like if you were going to do it? Has their mood changed? Are they giving away their possessions? Are they making those statements of, well, you won't have to deal with me pretty soon, or you won't have to deal with my problems any longer, things along those lines. But you should ask the question. Do not be afraid to ask the question. And if you do ask the question and the answer is yes, then you need to stop everything else that you're doing and that person becomes your priority, right? You can't leave them alone. You need to take them in. I've had people call me that have had a gun in their hand, and I'm like, this is gonna go one of two ways. Either I'm gonna come pick you up and we're gonna go get help, or as soon as we hang up, I'm gonna call the sheriff and they're gonna come pick you up and make you get help. You can't be afraid of that conflict. Yes, sir.
I noticed that the population you are talking about, either veteran or non-veteran, they're very vulnerable people and they need a good insurance. The problem is treatment in this country seems to be driven by insurance companies. And these folks are very hard to keep their jobs. So without jobs, they don't have insurance. So it's a lot of times it's a very vicious circle or downward spiral. So I don't know whether things will get better if we just write a letter to legislators. I think the government should kick in and prevent these folks making decisions by providing maybe government-backed insurance or something like that. Otherwise, we'll always live with people who are, in a way, risking their own lives, or they might be harm to the society as well.
Right. The statement was more along the lines of, if they don't have insurance, it's hard to get them the coverage. Am I correct on that? And you're absolutely right. And that's the part of bringing the government into play. Now, I'm not going to stand up here and say that government-sponsored health insurance is the best answer in all cases, because if you haven't been to the VA for treatment, you haven't truly experienced government-driven health care. But you are 100% right. But maybe we need to look at it in a different aspect of, okay, maybe they're not going to have insurance, but we're not going to turn them away, or we're not going to close the government-run mental health facilities, which has happened. They're all closed. So you can bring in a psych patient and they'll sit there with no place to go and they're not really getting the treatment that they're getting. But you are 100% correct. We have to figure out that solution. We can do a lot on our level, but we're going to have to get the laws to change. We're going to have to bring the government into play in order to change what our focus is on that. But you're absolutely right, sir. You got a question, sir?
Yeah, I've got a question from the Jim Cook, who's on Zoom. First of all, he thanks you for your service. But the question is, how are you doing today? And then how do you deal with, I don't know if relapse is the right word, but obviously if you've had these issues, they probably continue to persist in some degree in your life. And how has that process been and how do you deal with that?
Right, so, I have bad days. Everybody has bad days. I still lose sleep at times. But it doesn't bother me like it used to. I realize that, yeah, I may lose sleep tonight, but I don't get upset about it. I'll catch up with that tomorrow. It's okay. I still go get therapy on a fairly irregular basis. And if I'm feeling particularly off, particularly at the start of COVID, I go back in. This time of year, I usually go back in for more treatment because this is the time of year. I had a couple friends die. I didn't get into that part of the story who died in Iraq, and it was this time of year. So, I go back into treatment regularly, just like anything else. Just like if you had any other disease process, cancer or anything else, you'll go back for treatment, physical therapy, what have you. So.
Can you do one more question?
One more?
Yeah.
By the way, we have an all-veteran Rotary Club, which you would be an excellent member of. Tommy will tell you about that, right, Tommy?
Okay. Beautiful. All right. I thank you for your time. Thank you for having me.
Josh, thank you so much for your great presentation. From literacy and peace to water and health, Rotary is a global network of over 1.2 million problem solvers who unite to take action to create lasting change to help better our world. In honor of your presentation, we will make a donation to Every Meal, formerly known as the Sheridan Story, which is an organization focused on providing weekend and other food gap programs to over 10,000 children here in the Twin Cities metropolitan area. And one other little surprise, I wanted to give him a $1 million bill. Is that okay? Yeah. Along with your thanks card.
Thank you, sir.
But thank you so much for being here, and it was a wonderful discussion. Thank you. Thank you.
Very powerful. That was great. Okay, next week's speaker is John Credelli. His talk is on difference makers. And looking ahead, fireside chats until April 26th. As Renee mentioned, Vocational Happy Hour will be April 7th, and April 20th, Robb mentioned Leadership Series. I want to thank you all for coming live, for our guests that have joined us today, for the people on Zoom, and for the Paul Harris Fellow recipients, and Josh especially. Thanks so much. And I have a quote to leave you with. Your future is worth healing through the trauma from your past. Jesse Beyer. With that, meeting adjourned.